Next witness is Charles Lee, who will be giving evidence online. Is Mr. Lee online? Not yet.
Try again. Hello, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lee is online.
Mr. Lee, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for making yourself available to the tribunal. Please be certain to tell us the truth. You'll now be asked some questions by counsel.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lee. You're a member of World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong.
Yes.
As you're aware, we heard Dr. Wang yesterday, and you want to make 5 further comments regarding his report.
You mean you want me to make the comments?
Yes. Please make your comments in respect of the
Oh,
report.
yes. We have studied thousands of academic papers published by the doctors in China regarding this organ transplant procedures, and we find more than 300 of academic papers talked about the donor situation, what kind of ages, the health situation, and how they procure the organs. We find that from these academic papers that a lot of procedures they have conducted have approved that they have conducted a kind of mass murder, and these donors were killed as sin. So some of these academic papers say that they would inject heparin 2 hours before the organ was obtained, but they say these are cadavers, so which is like a conflict by itself. And specifically, they have some data from the Ministry of the Public Health in China. They started the collecting of this liver transplantation procedure situation from 26 hospitals, and also from another 11 hospitals, volunteered hospitals. These 26 hospitals are all the prominent hospitals in China, and they're very good in doing these organ transplant procedures. They have collected 8,645 cases between the time of February 2005 to December 2006, and then they had 2 reports published. One of the reports in 2006, which was published in December of 2006, they say they have data on 4,331 cases with, that's available for the timing manner. Among them, 1,150 cases were emergency operations, which was as high as 26.6%. So more than a quarter of these recipients conducted like emergency procedures for liver transplant, which means there's a large donor pool readily available, because for the regular societies such as Canada, we had data showing that between the year 1994 to year 2008, only 60 the liver transplants were for acute liver failure, which was only 6.5%. So for the large portion of this emergency liver transplant, which means that they have the donors waiting for the recipients, and they have a system that which can procure the donors in a very fast way. So this is one of the evidence showing that the living donor pool does exist in China, because for the acute liver failure, the patients only have maybe 72 hours or even less to survive. If you do not have a liver readily available, then the patient will die. So that's why, since China has such a high level of this emergency liver transplant, it is very unusual and it's not seen in other countries. We have some other academic papers. As I said, they have a very young, healthy donors, and there's one thing that is about the brain death, because in China there is no legal procedure to determine what brain death is. But in the academic papers, most of them claim that the patients are brain dead. But as I said, they have a very short warm ischemia time, and right now they claim that many of them are zero time, like 0 minutes of warm ischemia time, so they can literally just get the organ from a donor which has still circulation, heartbeat, and that kind of things. We have a paper published in China Transplant Journal in 2011. They have 298 cardiac transplant, and among them, that they say that only 60 of these donors had a heartbeat stopped or in a kind of vibration state. All the others, the heart was taken when the heart was still beating. So all these academic papers showing that this is truly a mass murder conducted by the doctors. So I stop here, then let's see if you guys have any questions. We can just have maybe discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any question from the tribunal?
Yes. So, could you clarify for those people who aren't directly involved in transplantation, what tissue typing would normally be used for a liver transplant, and whether in the context of the Chinese practice, those rules were in some way relaxed to account for the rapid transplantation?
What we expect is that all this tissue and the blood type was done beforehand, so that's why they can do this quickly. And the doctors always promise, even if you call them now, they can still promise you that the organs will be available in 2 weeks. It should be less than 1 month. So that means the way they do things is that the donors were already readily available, and the database is available when the patients were admitted into the hospitals. These are academic paper published by a hospital in Shanghai, which is called Long March Hospitals. They have done 120 emergency liver transplant. The shortest waiting time was only 4 days after, or 4 hours. 4 hours after the patient was admitted. So if you imagine that in normal society, usually it's not like that fast. So they have this, the tissue type and blood type is already, done beforehand. So that's why they can have such a short waiting time.
But I understand that, but I just want to be clear that there was no relaxation of the tissue matching regulations. In other words, that they weren't taking an imperfectly matched pool.
We don't have data on this kind of situation, because on the academic paper they do not say that the tissue type matching criteria is relaxed, because they have to do this in a fast way, because there's no data available in the papers itself, and we don't I don't think we have access to this kind of situation. How they relaxed the criteria for the tissue matching in that case.
Okay, could you define for the tribunal, for the lay people here, what the relevance, what is the relevance of warm ischemia time?
Warm ischemia was like the time when you have these organs with the blood supply stopped or reduced. Then when you take organs out, either immediately transplant into the recipient's body, or you put in a kind of iced box to preserve, in ice solution to preserve the organ. So when you have this 0 minutes warm ischemia time, which means when you take the organ still have full blood supply, meaning like the circulation and the heartbeat is still on. So then the organs were taken out. That's how they practice. And they have, at this moment, they have something called a brain death center in the central hospitals, in those places, and they can conduct procurement of the organs with 0 warm ischemia time, which means we believe that the donors were killed at scene, so they can just get organs right away.
In a multi-organ donor procedure, in many places,
yes,
the patient would be prepared by cannulating all the relevant inflow vessels, say to the liver, and you would only take the liver out at the moment that the heart was extracted. So the warm ischemia time can be very, very short indeed, because you're already perfusing with cold. So what I'm not absolutely sure I grasp the significance of a short warm ischemic time if it's done in the context of a good multi-donor operation, multi-organ donor procedure.
Multi-organ donor. You mean that the multi-organ donor is like they take multiple organs out at the same time. I have a paper over here. There's a paper like published in 2006 in Guangxi province. They have 72 cases of multi-organ abdominal extraction between the June 23 and June 2003 and June 2005 in 2 years. They have liver and kidney and all these things extracted all together. But in this paper, they injected heparin intramuscularly 2 hours before the operation. So, which means all these 72 cases, the donors were still alive, when they injected the heparin intramuscularly, because you have to have heartbeat and circulation in order for the heparin to be distributed to the whole body to be effective. So meaning like 2 hours before the operation, these people are still alive. And they take multiple organs out. This is like academic papers published by the doctors themselves. And they describe how they procure these organs. So this is, we believe that things are still happening because there were some phone interviews by the investigators from the WOPAC, and to the doctors in China just last year, they still admit that they have this kind of way of obtaining the organs that can be done right away and very close by. So we believe that's still going on in a large scale.
So just to be clear, this is a different practice, a different mode of multi-organ retrieval than is practiced elsewhere.
Yes, of course. You mean the donors are still alive when they when their organs were taken.
I also want to clarify your point about the heart transplant you mentioned, where again you said the heart was beating when it was excised. Let me finish the question. In a cardiac retrieval procedure, in a patient who was known to be brain dead, it would be normal for the heart to be beating until cardioplegia is given at the very last moment to retrieve.
That's right. In normal situation, when the brain death happened, the heart is still beating. But in China, as we said, that there is no legal definition of brain death, and this is the thing, because the doctors don't know the definition of the legal the brain death, and they don't care about if the people really brainly die. So that's why when you see this description that the brain death in China, which was the academic paper was published in 2011. Yeah, at that time there's nothing. So regarding the brain death procedure, how they monitor the doctors, they to conduct the testing on the patients if the patients are really brain dead. So that's why when you say those things, this is truly like, and also in that paper they say these donors are very young. They're only 18 to 45 years old, and there's no history of any severe disease for these donors. So that's why we believe that when the heartbeat is still going on, then the patient is not dead, because the brain death concept is not exists in China at that time.
Dr. Lee, I have three questions. The first is you're basically comparing an emergency operation rate of 26.6% in China, and you're comparing that with, say, in Canada of
Yes.
6.5%. Do you have any other percentages from other parts of the world? And do they?
No, not really. Not this time. So we have obtained this percentage from this actually from the London Health Science Center in Canada. That's what we found. But we haven't done enough research. But for the norm in the society, even if we have a very mature donation system such as in Canada, you can only get this percentage of emergency donation because of the donors availability is not that much, comparing to what's happening in China.
I mean, but that's precisely my question. You've just done one comparison. I'm not doubting what you're trying to say, but do you have equivalent percentages or rates from other countries?
No, at this moment I don't have it.
Okay. Second question is, you've come to the conclusion that a more plausible explanation I'm reading here is that it is the donors waiting for recipients in China, evidence supporting that a large living donor pool exists in China. I mean, just to ask you, could there be any other explanation?
I mean, actually, we can't find any other explanation because you have a very short warm ischemic time, and you have very high percentage of emergency transplantation percentage. The donors, and also for all these people who go into the hospitals for transplant, they always tell you that you can get the organ for like in 2 weeks or less than a month. So this kind of situation doesn't mean that you have to wait. These organs are readily available. You can just come to schedule the operation instead of waiting for the donor like the other parts of the world. Like you have to wait until somebody terminally ill or something, or there's an accident somewhere, you can get the organs right away. So it's not like those situations. You can only, there's only one possibility. You have somebody, there's a pool of donors.
Yeah,
so
I understand what you mean by plausible explanation. All I'm asking was whether you could think of any other explanation, even if it's less plausible than your conclusion.
That's what I'm saying. I cannot think of any other possibility.
My third question, the figures that you have looked at are basically from about 2007. Do you have any studies that are looking at much more recent figures?
We don't have any real figures. The reason is that the government of China, they always trying to cover up. Since this organ harvesting issue has been exposed, they have done a lot of things trying to mislead people. And the real data is something they always want to cover up. So it's difficult to obtain this kind of data saying that what kind of percentage of emergency liver transplant or things like that to be obtained from China itself. So this data was like from more than 10 years ago, actually.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Forgive me, because you may have answered this already, but it's as a non-medical expert, it's difficult to understand. Could you just be very clear with me? A zero-time warm ischemia transplant essentially involves the murder of somebody adjacent to the recipient the murder conducted by the extraction of their organs? Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, there are two possibilities. One is that the recipient is nearby in the next room or something. The other possibility is they put the organs into the ice solution so that they can preserve the organ. So, but when you have 0 time warm ischemic time, which means that the organs were obtained when the blood circulation is normal, the heartbeat is normal. So that's the clinical situation. You can say that, you can get this organ for 0 minutes warm ischemic time. That's how it is. So 2 possibilities: either put in ice solution or the recipient is nearby.
But the important point is that the extraction of the organ is the cause of death.
Yes, because the donor is still alive when they extract the organs.
I really want you to go through that with you again, because in my experience at least, you're always aiming for the shortest possible warm ischemic time. That is how you manage any donor operation. It is not an indication that I have, as it were, murdered the patient, murdered the donor, simply because I've got a short or approaching 0 warm ischemic time. That's the aim. I want the organs cold and in a bag and perfused as quickly as possible. So I don't see, I'm sorry, I may be very stupid, but I don't see the relationship between the 0 warm ischemic time and the certainty that the donor has been killed specifically for those organs.
Yeah, I believe that there's a lot of legal criteria in other countries to determine whether the patient is really brain dead. So they would always want to wait for at least 5 minutes after they decide like the patient is already brain dead, meaning like there's no activities, from brain, all those things, and no response from patient. So this is like a legal procedure, very strictly defined, that you have to wait for 5 minutes, and then before you really can procure the organs or something like that. So that's like in the very clear clinical settings, you cannot get an organ for a 0 minutes warm ischemic time legally. This is not possible if there's a normal practice of a medical hospital or anything like that. Or if you get an organ from other situation like the car accident or something like that, it's even longer time to get the organs. So because if the person has any accident, you have to get this to a certain a medical center, or if ambulance comes, all these situations takes time. So it's not possible literally for a 0 minutes warm ischemic time, because if you are responsible for the donor, who presumably died brain dead, then you have to wait for 5 minutes, before you can really cut the body up and to get the organs. So that's literally not possible. So which means they don't care about whether the patient is really brain dead or not, and that's literally just murder.
But for the point of clarity, the issue here is brain death.
Yeah.
Not warm ischemia time.
Yeah, brain death is like you have to wait until like say like 5 minutes, everything is clear, is the patient is dead. So that's warm ischemic time, usually is for that kind of situation, it's really possible to have occasionally have like very short time of warm ischemic time. But in these academic papers, they all say it's like within 10 minutes, sometimes short as 0. So that's why, we don't expect they really comply with these legal procedures for determining whether the patient is dead or not.
Okay, so I think we have to, I'm really sorry to push this point, but it seems very, very key to me to understand that the warm ischemia definition that you're implying takes place in Chinese practice is different in some way from the warm ischemic terminology that we would use in other centers doing transplantation, wherever they may be.
Yeah. Can you repeat that question again? Can you repeat that question again, please?
I just want to understand whether the definition or terminology that you're ascribing to warm ischemia time is in some way different in China to the rest of the world's transplant community, because what you've been describing looks more associated with how you define the time of death or the kind of death, in other words, brain death,
I understand. Yeah,
than
there was
warm ischemia itself.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Because I think the key point over here is the brain death, the definition and how you practice the brain death. There is a doctor whose name is Chen Zhonghua from Tongji Medical College in Wuhan. He is the expert in China on this brain death issue. He actually conducted the first ever heart transplant using a brain dead donor in the country on July 1st of 2006. So all the academic paper we collected was like sometime between 2000 to 2006. So which means when they claim that's brain dead in those donors, which is not possible because Chen Zhonghua himself only announced the first ever, brain dead donors in the country in July 1st, 2006. So when you say like, it's a brain dead, and they don't have a clear definition, they don't have this practice procedure in China at all during that time period. So that's what I'm trying to say. They don't really have this practice of brain dead in China.
So in the absence of a firm definition of brain death, then the definition of death in this context, as you describe it, would be cardiac death.
Well, it could be cardiac death, but when they claim that's a brain death, that's the thing. We say it's not possible because in China there was no such practice in that time period. At least for now, maybe since things a little changed, but we still see this kind of things happening. Like they claim brain death, but they don't have any evidence, and also they do not have actual data of these donors, like who they are, what kind of situation they are in. So as I said, they claim that these people are very, very healthy, very young, and there's no any severe disease history. So that's like combining all this information together. We believe that the donors were killed at scene.
Dr. Lee, you're a medical doctor.
Yes.
Are you practicing at the moment medicine, or are you full-time engaged as Director of Public Awareness of the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong?
Yeah, I'm not practicing medicine right now. I'm a businessman, but I've been involved with the WOPIC for many years. So.
And you're obviously closely associated with Falun Gong, and maybe a Falun Gong practitioner?
Yes, I am a practitioner myself, and also I was imprisoned in China for 3 years during the year of 2003 and 2006, because I went to China to review the truth of persecution to people in China. So I was arrested.
And sorry, there's one other question from Professor Elliott.
And it's another medical question. I haven't really pursued with you how the donors are managed from the point of view of anesthesia, and whether or not what is the process from the papers that you've read by which donors are prepared for the donor operation.
I do have a paper from Yunnan province. They have this combined extraction of heart and lung, which says the donors were put under anesthesia, and after a few hours, when the anesthesia was took effect, then they opened the chest and took the heart and the lung together. So this is not all the people talk about anesthesia, but for the ones we see that when people have when these two donors enter the operating room, they were like breathing well. You know, they have apparently they have this the brain function is okay. Otherwise, they would not need to be put under the anesthesia procedure. So that's why, you know, when you have two donors and were put under anesthesia for a few hours, and then they open the chest and then take the heart and the lung, which means, you know, the donors were alive when they entered the operation room. So that's what we got regarding the anesthesia.
So in other evidence that we've heard before, is patients were breathing and then intubated.
Yes.
Endotracheally. So there was evidence that they were breathing normally, then intubated endotracheally, then operated on for a donor operation. So they were not in any way, or could not have been in any way, brain dead by any conventional definition.
That's right.
Thank you.
This is the you know, the paper was published like in 2008.
My last question, Dr. Lee, is you've already said to Mr. Koo on my right that you've not had recent data to deal with. Is that right?
Yeah, because it's not easily available, recent data, yeah.
Very well. Have you, in your capacity as Director of Public Awareness, dealt with any other evidential material that would tend to confirm your conclusions? Just yes or no to that.
You mean recent data? We don't have any.
No other material?
Regarding the academic paper, no.
No. You're full-time engaged as Director of Public Awareness.
Oh, yeah. We do have...
Please listen to me.
Yeah.
You're dealing with medical data for the purposes of your short paper to us.
Mm-hmm.
But since the last collection of data, you've been engaged working in the organization for many more years. What categories, if any, of evidence have you dealt with or seen that would tend to show there has been forced organ harvesting? Any?
We believe we do have investigative phone calls to those doctors in the hospitals.
So let's deal with them by category, may we?
Mm-hmm.
The phone calls to hospitals, which Dr. Wang has told us about.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
We don't have any, you know, like in these couple of years, because as I said, they're always trying to cover up.
Don't bother with the explanation.
Yeah.
Please. I just want an account of what you have or have not got. And in particular, what you have or have not got over recent years. Has there been any material other than Dr. Wang's phone calls pointing towards forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong over recent years, last couple of years?
We don't have any like the academic paper or any publication regarding this issue at this moment for the, you know, in the last two years or something like that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for making yourself available. That concludes your evidence.
Thank you very much. Okay, my pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, our next witness is Mr. Dolkon Isa, the President of World Uyghur Congress.
Yes. And he's online, isn't he?
He will.
And I think the position, Mr. Sabi, is that there's no formal paper presented by him.
Mr. Isa's paper was submitted as part of reading list here to the tribunal, and the tribunal wanted to actually interview Mr. Isa.
Is he online?
Assalamu alaikum. Dolqinsiz.
Salam alaikum.
Uyg'urcha beramsiz yoki inglizcha? Inglizcha bilsangiz bo'ldi, men faqat tushunmagan yerlarda men sizga yordam qilaman.
Okay, tamam.
So he's going to give his evidence in English, and if there is any difficulty, I will assist him.
Good Good afternoon. Thank you for making yourself. Good afternoon. Thank you for making yourself available. Please remember simply to tell us the truth at all times.
Yes.
Sabi, do you have any questions?
Not many, sir. Just to ask him to introduce himself.
Please do.
Mr. Issa, would you introduce yourself and your position in World Uyghur Congress?
Özünüzni bir düşendirip etsiniz, özünüz kimi ve Uyghur Kongress'te özünüzningki ornunuz, qandaq ornunuz var?
Yeah, thank you. My name Dolkun Isa. I'm the current president of the World Uyghur Congress, based in Munich, Germany. World Uyghur Congress is the umbrella organization and united voice of the Uyghurs in exile.
Mr. Issa, would you provide the tribunal with a very brief position of the situation of Uyghurs in China presently, and in particular in connection with the camps that they have been taken in?
Well, today situation in for the Uyghur is really deteriorated, particularly since 5 years we have witnessed Chinese government's strategy to the Uyghurs really eliminated all Uyghur identity very clearly. Since the 5 years, particularly Xi Jinping took the power, and he really implemented and eradicated Uyghur identity. And 2016, August, Qin Qianguo, former party secretary, Chinese Communist Party secretary in Tibet, Qin Qianguo was appointed party secretary in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. When he was the party secretary in Tibet, Qin Qianguo and brutal cracked on Tibetan people. And after he appointed as a party secretary in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, he used the brutal way and his experiment in Tibet and really implemented a new restriction rule that start 2016 October. He had all the communication between transportation, particularly direct flight from Ürümqi to Istanbul, Dubai, some other country, because before this, each week, 5 days, direct flight from Ürümqi to Istanbul. After Qin Qianguo came to the Ürümqi, he kept all the stopped all transportation first. Then October, he started to collect passport of all the Uyghurs. Then slowly, he 2017, beginning of the March or April, he implemented for so-called eradication camp. Today, some resources say more than 2 million people suffering in the camp. Some say possibility 3 million, but it is really difficult to confirm how many, but there's definitely more than 1 million people in the camp. And so many death cases was happening in the camp. Radio Free Asia, Uyghur service confirmed until now more than 40 death cases. One of them, my mom. 2018, 12th June, I got heartbreaking news. My mother, Ayha Mehmet, she was 78 years old. She was a retired woman. She passed away, died in the camp. Actually, I didn't know what condition she was passed away. After I got this news, actually my mother passed away 17th of May 2018. But I got this news nearly 3 weeks later. I got 12th of June regarding my mother passed away. Then a lot of media called me and what was the situation, what condition my mother died, but I had no idea. I had trying to communicate with my family member, my friend. I trying to call all telephone number which I had, but no, I couldn't access. Then some international media randomly calling to the police office, local government. Then later, maybe it's a few weeks later, I learned my mother put the camp nearly 1 year before, is around maybe June or May 2017, and after 1 year later, she died in the camp. This I learned from the media. It is just example because it is the exactly evidence what is going on in the camp. And another big thing was Muhammad Salih, who was 80 years old, Islamic scholar. He translated Quran from Arabic language to Uyghur language.
Mr. Isa,
Yes.
at this stage, the tribunal would only want general information, not individual information. Do you also have any information as to the fact that Uyghurs are being DNA tested, and have any news regarding the forced organ transplant of Uyghurs?
Sure. Chinese government also official announced 2017 and 18 already testing and the blood talks the blood example around 11 million people. Of course, it is impossible that we got the evidence and exactly propose why Chinese government talks blood samples and the DNA test, but so many Uyghurs since 2016 and the escape from my country to the Europe and the US, they are saying, and some of them give a report, Chinese government and just talks of blood sample and test also DNA test as well. It is also Chinese government as official is reported sometime, and some family members also reported this. So today also we don't know exact number. Since 2018 October, Chinese government stopped all the transportation, particularly railway from Beijing and other province from China to Urumqi. Stop. Then transport detainer to inner China. We don't know exact number, but bitter winter report, this is number 200,000 to 300. Some reports say 400,000, 500,000 Uyghur detainer transport to inner China. This is we can say, or we can worry on, maybe Chinese government use these people for the organ harvesting. Because 2009, 10 years ago, it is peaceful uprising was cracked on. That time also a few thousand Uyghur disappeared. World Uyghur Congress, we documented 43 case, exactly case and everything we documented, but still already 10 years passed. We don't know this all still disappeared. So possibility is these people and they used for the organ harvesting, maybe. And 1997 in Gulja was the 30 years ago, one uprising was happened. And that time also Amnesty International report, some other international organization already reported around 300 people died this time, and so many this sentence was happening. Then this time also still already 30 years passed, but so many disappearance, no news. So many people arrested, but most of them disappeared. Possibly these people maybe used it for the organ harvesting.
Thank you. The tribunal will have now some questions for you.
Mr. Isa, please slow down. We want your assistance. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
First, there's a complete difference between Falun Gong and Uyghur, because Falun Gong are a pan-China belief system, and they have at all times, is this right, been completely peaceful. Correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Your nation, Northwest China, is predominantly or completely Muslim.
Yes.
And has separatist
ambitions within it. Yes?
Can I answer this question?
Yes, please. Are there those with separatist ambitions within your Uyghur nation?
Well, yes, some group have such ambitions. Some people really want to separate from China. Some organizations, some people, and solve this problem use a peaceful way. But however, it is want to separate or someone ask self-determination. I believe self-determination is not crime.
Enough for the time being. Honestly, I'm not against you. I'm just trying to extract from you the evidence that will help us.
Yeah.
In the course of pursuit of separatism, there have been some violent events which have involved the Chinese authorities. Yes?
Well, yes, there is some violence was happening. It is true, but it is. I don't say it is not in the related with the link with the terrorism, because there is no one safe. Because Uyghurs have no right to express and this.
First of all, I didn't describe it as terrorism.
Yes.
I was just being neutral, and that was quite enough. Now that's the background.
Yeah.
And you will, I'm sure, understand from where you live that in the last year or so, people in Northern Europe and no doubt in America have got to hear about your people being imprisoned in huge numbers.
Yes.
This tribunal has a very focused interest. And that interest is in what happens to people in prison in China. And now we know, all of us in the West, we now know that that includes very many Uyghurs. We are interested in evidence.
Yeah.
You've touched on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the second thing we're interested in is why there seems to be so little evidence of what happens to people in the prison camps of Uyghurs. So can we deal with it in order? What evidence is there that has come to you or is otherwise available of people suffering death in the prison camps for the purpose of organ harvesting, as it is called? What evidence is there?
Well, there's Uyghurs who is the camps and the subject to political indoctrination and the mental torture, also and the physical torture. So there is some suicide evidence was happening. And there is to be honestly, it is impossible to get the information from the camp.
Pause again. Pause. We're dealing with this in two parts. We'll come to the difficulties of getting evidence in a minute.
Yes.
Now, you've already indicated that there is evidence of what happens in the camps. You've spoken of propaganda or brainwashing. How does that evidence come out? How do you get that evidence?
Reima, could you please help me to really don't understand this question?
Hazır siz biraz şu kampda bolğan işlarni dep ötdünüz. Bu ispatlar qayerdan keldi? Bu xabarlar sizga qayerdan keldi?
This evidence from because we have interview with several of witnesses. Now it is reported around 2,000 Kazakh and Uyghurs, but is a Kazakh citizen. They were in the camps, and the Chinese government, because of the Kazakhstan intervention, then they are released and they came to the Kazakhstan. But
so these people,
we talked with them
from the camp, told you about brainwashing, suicide, and so on.
Yes.
Now, did those people, is that your only source of information as to what happens in the camp?
Bu muş faqatlam aşıladın kelgan xabarlarmı ya başqa yana xabarlar bormi?
Şulardan kelgan xabarlar mutlaq ko'p qismi shu kampda yetib chiqqan va hozir Qozog'istonning, Xitoyning besimidan deyamayotgan ba'zi insonlar o'zlari bizga yashaganliklarini, ko'rganliklarini har xil shakldan ismsiz yo'llagan uchurlar bor.
Yeah, most of the evidence are based on those people who has spent time in the camps and what they have witnessed. And we also received some letters, anonymous letters, as well about what is happening there.
Anonymous letters from where?
İsmi yazılmagan xatlar qayerdan kelgan xatlar?
Bazıları Türkiye'den kelgan, bazıları Qozog'istondan kelgan, bazıları Qirg'izistondan kelgan. Hatto bir ikki parcha xatmi bor. Bular o'zlarini shu biz Xitoyning o'zining ichida ichki o'lkalarda bo'layotdi deb, u yerdan kelgan bir qancha parcha xatmi bor.
Most of these anonymous letters came from Turkey, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. We had about two letters. It actually come from people inside China, and they said they are in mainland China.
Now, these are your sources of evidence. Does any of that evidence show that people within the camps are subject to medical testing? By the way, I should say we know of the medical testing on the streets, but does any of your evidence from the sources you described show of medical testing in the camps?
Bu ispatlar sizga kelgan mushar xil ispatlarda mushu kampning ichidagi odamlar tansal nima jihatdan tekshirilayotgan yoki mushu bizning temaga munosabatli ishlarning bo'layotgan shundaq bir nimalar keldimi sizga isbotlar?
Shunda buning ichida har xil uchurlar bor bizga hamda qandaq ishlarning bo'lganligi, o'zining qandaq narsalarga uchirganligi va nimalarni ko'rganligi haqida bu har xil shaklda narsalar bor. Ularga kirgandan keyin o'qul urdi ekan, masalan, o'qul urdi ekan. Anandan keyin bu o'qulning nima bo'lgan ba'zi dorilarni berdi ekan, buni majbur yeydigan ba'zilari tilning ichiga kirib tukirayotgan avvallar ekan. Onundan keyin ashning ichida, kampning ichida qo'shnisi turib ko'z oldi bilan o'lib ketgan odamlarningki bo'lganliklarini so'roq achib ketiblar, undan keyin yo'qolib ketganliklarini, ba'zilari so'roq achib ketib keyin kirgandan keyin bir qancha kundan keyin o'lib ketgan har xil shunday uchurlar.
Sal astaraq gap qiling deydi. Chunki ammini bular yozdi emasmi degan gaplarni. Yes, we have received information very consistently. Very consistent. Some said there were medical examination is widespread. Also, there were deaths in the camp, and there were people taken away from the cell and never returned to the cells.
Anadaki aşağıda doğrularını verirken bir xil doğru iken
even unknown medication injections.
So thank you for the first part of the answer, and you bring me to the next topic. Does your evidence coming about the camps show people taken away and not returning without explanation? You already said that. How many people on the evidence are you aware of who may have been taken away for an unknown reason?
Siz bayam deb o'tdingiz, ba'zilarni shu nimadan chiqib ketgandan keyin ham qaytib kelmagan ahvollar bo'lgan. Sizningki bilishingizcha bu son qanchalik sondagi insonlar?
Onunla mançilik sandıkı bir diyemeyiz. Çünkü bu kamp bek cık olgandan keyin bizge diğerleri mesela diğerleri fakat yüzü yapkan aş kampıdaki boğan hadislerindeydi. Ulanı kopa mançsan da bizge bir san belgeni yok.
It is very difficult to estimate the numbers because we know there are many camps in the country at the moment. As far as I know, the people who told us that about the disappearance of the cellmates are those who were inside, who spent time inside. So it is very difficult for me to give you any estimation.
In your capacity, or maybe your colleagues in their capacities, has anyone set out a report based on the evidence of what happens in the camp, detailing numbers who disappeared, detailing medical tests and so on? Has any report been prepared?
Sizning hazır mışı uqunuz hazırkı mışı ahval astıda sizninki organ mışı dostlarınız yoki işlep atqanlar mışı hazır qanchalik kishilar yutib ketdi, qanchalik kishilarni tekshirish qildik va o'lib ketdi degandek mushundaq bir tekshirishlarni ilib berayotgan, report tayyorlayotgan ahvol bormi?
Rapor tayyorlayapti emas, umumiy vaziyatmiş kampı to'g'riliq. Ama hazır kampıdaki adamlarning soni 2 milyondan ko'p deb taxmin qilyapmiz. Hatta ba'zi Uyg'urlar hamda chet elda Uyg'urlar Türkiye'de bo'lsin, Yevropa, Amerika'da bo'lsin, O'rta Osiyoda bo'lsin, hamma uydan men hozir Amerika'da, Kanadaning hamma shaharlariga bordim. Ba'zi oilalardan 30dan 40 gacha odamning yo'qolib ketganligini, nada bo'lganligini bilmaydi ekan 2 yilning yoqi. Shuning bu son meselesida biz haqiqatan aniq bir narsa deyamaymiz. Ama bu en azında 2 milyondan ko'p, hatta 3 milyondan ko'p bo'lgan bo'lishi mumkin. Deb faraz qilaymiz. Ama bularning qanchaligi hozir hayot, qanchaligi yo'qolib ketdi, nima qildi? Buningga bir nima deyish hozircha biroz baldir. Chunki uchur erish imkoniyatimiz hech imkon. Men dedim-ku, opamning qanday shartda o'lib ketganligini o'zim bilmayapman. Mushti 20 saat.
I explained it to you because of the difficulties in obtaining information within the region. It created huge difficulties to produce a detailed report with evidence. But we have a general information regarding what is happening there. Also, the estimation by some experts that we know at least over 1 million or up to 2 million people are held in the camp at the moment, but we don't know how many people alive, how many people died already, how many people being transferred to mainland China, prisons in mainland China.
My original second question was about the difficulties of getting information about the camps, but you have now already effectively answered that. And so I'll see if my colleagues have any questions.
Men ikinci sualıma bayqi, şu aşadın uçur egallaştığın təsligi doğrusunda sormaq istedim. Siz onun cevap verip oldunuz. Endi meninki meşədə otdağan başqa dostlarım sizden sual soraydı.
Sir, could you please tell us if there are other Muslim groups in China besides the Uyghurs?
Xitayda Uyg'urlardan başqa yana musulmonlar bormi?
Baba, Xitayda elbette bizim Şarkı Türkistan'da Uygurlar, bu kampı kirvatkan Uygurlar bilen koşup Kazaklar, Kırgızlar, Özbekler, muşlarmı muşu kampıdı var. Onundan başka hem de Xitayda elbette Huyzullah deydiğen Müslümanlar var. Ulamı bugün dini, bizde kamp yok ya da ama dini itikat cihatta keyinki yıllarda besin bulatıdılar.
Yes, there are many different ethnic groups in East Turkestan, my country. There are Uzbek people, Kazakh people, Tatar, Kyrgyz. They are all Muslims. Also, another very large Muslim group. They are Hui. They call it Hui, and although they are not persecuted, I mean, to the exact same level, but lately they are also being targeted.
So the follow-up question then, which you've answered a little bit of, is are all the groups treated the same, or is there one group that's persecuted more than the other?
Endi mening ikinci sualım, şu musulmonlar, lekin hammasiga o'xshash pozitsiyadami yoki ba'zi musulmonlarni bekarak ig'ir jazoladi, ba'zi musulmonlarni yengilroq, shu to'g'risida o'zingizniki ko'z qarashingizni aytasiz.
Degandagidek bu Tungallarmı, Huyzularmı, Müslüman, ulağa dini besim var ama bizdeki okşaş kamplar silip bunda yoktumen de bunda hareket boğun yok. Ama Şarkı Türkistan'da bu zulümün köpü Uygurlar bilen Kazaklar bulatıdı. Başkalara mı var ama bizgi boğandagidek ağır emez.
It is not treated exactly the same. The Hui Muslims, they relatively have freedom to practice religion, but they are also in last 2 years being targeted. Although not putting them into camps or severe. The situation as severe as in East Turkestan, and in my country, the victimized race are the Uyghurs and the Kazakhs.
Mr. Rizal, thank you. You mentioned that over 11 million of Uyghur people have been subjected to blood testing. Could you please elaborate a bit more on the circumstances in which those samples were taken, and in particular, where these examination or where this blood testing occurred, by whom, and if they were forced to give the samples to the authorities who were in charge?
Siz bayam 11 milyon insandan şu nime kan ağan tekşürüş qilgan DNA tekşürüş qilgan to'g'risida deb o'tdingiz. Siz mushuningda bir inchigrek bir ma'lumot bera olamsiz? Bularni qandaq sharoatda bulardan qon olgan, bularga majburlaganmi, qandaq yerlarga opirib, bu qon elish nima qayalarda bo'lgan?
Bunu Xitay matbuatları 2016 yıldır özleri yazgan. Bunu şu her kaysı rayonluk, nailik, her mahallədeki davalaş punktlarına çağırıp müşna kan evrilişkisini kıldıgan bula vaxtıda bekağa davalaş servisi kılmaz diyen nam bilen adamlarını aşağı çağırıp anındaki nelike yukumluk kesellerinin aldılarımız diyen bilen okul salımız dep muşu şekilde her kaysın rayon, naye, yezladaki davalaş punktlarda şehirlik doktorxanalarda müşahede edip bağım bu da.
In 2016, the Chinese government actually made an announcement, announcement for the people to go to their local clinics, the hospitals, all in East Turkestan, from town, village, city level. And at that time, they made the announcement that they're giving this free health check, and also in order to prevent some contagious disease.
Just a follow-up question. If someone wouldn't go to the local clinic to get her or his blood tested, so would that been any sanction not to comply with that announcement?
Әмді бұл Қытай мұшындақ чақырға вақтыда бәзілі өзі шүйеге бамыған болса, şu қан тәкшірішке чақырқыға қаршы шығып бамыған болса, олағы бір жаза, başqa bir vasıtalarını қолланған ahval bamı.
Bu vaxtda bir məlumatım yox.
I don't have any information regarding that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for making yourself available to the tribunal. Mr. Issa, your evidence is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rəhmət sizə.
Our next witness, Mr. Chairman, is Mirgul Tursun. She will join us with online. Statement comes at page 354.
Hello.
Mirgul, assalamu alaykum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
Yaxşı anladınızmı? Benim gepimni anlayapsınız?
Ha, yaxşı aldım.
Okay. Yes. She can hear me.
Good afternoon. Thank you
Hello.
for making yourself available to the tribunal. Good afternoon. Thank you for making yourself available to the tribunal. Please be sure you tell us the truth. Thank you, counsel.
Anlayapsınız? Yaxşımısınız? Bugün bu sotda özünüz guvalıq beriş kelgiliniz üçün, çıqınınız üçün köptün köp rəhmət. Bugün bizning birdan bir sizden qildigan talabimiz faqat haqiqatni, rostni so'zlash. Shular.
Yaxşımısınız? Avazımı aldınız mı?
Ben sizni anladım. Siz beni anladınız mı?
Ben yaxşı aldım. Hamıya salam.
Yeah, anladım. Ha, xatircam bo'lin. Just checking if I heard her voice. So, yeah.
Hazır bugün benden her qanday sualın sorusu buldu.
You can ask me any question today.
Thank you very much and welcome to China Tribunal. Hoş geldi. Ms. Tursun, can you tell the tribunal the circumstances when you came back from Egypt to China? What happened to you and your 3 children?
Sizga ko'p rahmat. Hozir bizga shu siz Misrdan Xitoyga qaytgan vaqtingizdagi qaytganda sizga va bolalaringizga qandaq bir fojialarning bo'lganligini tushuntirib o'tamsiz. Rahmat.
Okay. Sorry, I speak Uyghur language and then she can translate me for English. Exactly, ben 2015-yılı 5-ci ayının 13-cü günü menin 45 gün bo'lgan triplet ikki o'g'il bir qiz balamni Misrdan vatanga ep tushgan vaqtim 2015 5-ci ayının 13-i.
45 günlük dediniz, ha?
Yeah.
So I landed at Urumqi Airport on the 13th of May 2015, along with my 3 children. Triplet, yeah, triplet. 45 days at the time. They were only 45 days old at the time.
Ayrımğa bağa vaqtimda şu ahval so'raymiz, biz bazı savollarni so'raymiz deb ayrımdan meni 3 balamni mendan ayirib 3 saat bazı savollarni so'rdi. Keyin so'roq jarayonida şu og'zimni chaplab, qora xalta kiygizib, qo'limni qo'yib silib turmuqqa aketdi. Meni balamni ko'rsatmagan ahvolda shu kuni ayrımdan.
At the airport, I was taken into a interrogation room. They separated me from my babies, and after 3 hours interrogation, they sealed my mouth and a black hood over my head, handcuffed me, and taken me to detention place.
Şu turmuqqa aketgan kunni 3 kunda so'roq qilgandan keyin birinchi qatimda shu meni hech qanday qiliqqa salomatlik tekshirmaylar, ishga yaramay so'lab qo'ydi turmuqqa.
I was interrogated 3 days and night, and then I was taken to a detention center where I spent 2.5 months. İşke yaramay dediniz, ha?
Ha. Ama şu meni turmadan 2 yarim aydan keyin balang tugab ket, bir balang, 3 balang og'ir ekan degan sababdan şu bir balang tugab ketgan kuni meni qo'yib berdi.
I was released on the day they told me that my children's health in very severe condition. On the day when one of my triplet died, that was the day that I was released from detention.
Shundan keyin shu men chiqqandan keyin 3 yil balamning boynidan kesib operatsiya qilibdi. Nima operatsiyaligini uqmayman. Birsi tugab ketdi. Ikkilasining hozir mayada tatu holatda. Shunday bo'ldi. Ikkinchi qatim yana meni qayta tutdi.
At that time, I noticed my babies, they all had been operated on their neck, and one died. 2 of them still have the scar on their neck, and I don't know why. Then I was also detained the second time.
İkinci qatim 2017 yılı 4. ayının 17. günü.
The second detention, the arrest happened on the 17th of April 2017. 2017'de, ha?
Ha.
Okay, yeah.
O vaqtda tutqa vaqtımı yeni şu bəzi suallarını sorayımız deb, lekin 3 geç gündüz meni qattiq mentally psixikatni urib, tok chetish, ashunaq suallarni so'rab, qiynab sual so'radi.
At the time of my arrest, I was told that they needed to clarify some information with me. But after I was taken to the detention place in an interrogation room, I was interrogated again for 3 days and night and severely tortured. That is when I experienced the terrible electrocution.
Şu jarayonda, urush jarayonida men o'ng qulog'imning quloq pardasi yetilib, anglamas bo'lib qoldi.
And because of the severe beating, I lost hearing on my right ear.
Shundan keyin shu urib qiynash jarayonida tok chatgandan keyin men as-hushimni yo'qotgandan keyin bu 3 kun jarayonida men tomoq yemadim, bir narsa suv ichmadim.
During that 3 days, I didn't eat anything, or I wasn't offered any water.
4. günü, yani 4. ayının 22. günü meni charchan naylik şu doktorxonaga saqchilar beshimga xalt ko'yilgan holatda şu doktorxonaga apadi salomatlik tekshirish uchun.
And on the 22nd of April, I was taken to the hospital in Chechen town. Again, I had a black hood over my head for medical examination.
Ular şu akirgan vaqtda odatdagi kasallar bor ko'rinadigan doktorga akirmaydigan, ularning maxsus o'ziga biz ko'rib baxmagan doktorlar bor ekan. Chunki qaysi yo'llardan akirib doktorxonaning qaysi ishkirga akirganligini men aniq ko'ramadim, beshimda xalta bo'lg'achqa.
Due to having the black hood over my head, I couldn't see which channels or which kind of gates I was taken into the examining room. But I know that they didn't take me to the normal clinic where the ordinary people go to have health check.
Ama şu doktorlik kanaldaga vaqtda mening kallamda xalta bor, faqat bilgimni echib, qulamga sanjib kanalda qancha kanalda uni men ko'ramadim. 2 qatam yengni silib kanalda, chunki kallamda xalta bor, uni men ko'ramadim.
Although I had a black hood over my head, I knew that they took blood from my vein, from my arm twice, but I don't know how much they draw my blood, how much blood was drawn at that time.
Ondan keyin qon tekshirdi, qon besim tekshirdi.
And they also checked blood pressure, my blood pressure.
Ondan keyin yurakni anglaydigan narsa yurak tekshirdi.
They also used the heartbeat test using.
Ondan keyin dumbi tarafimdan yana bir narsani qo'yib, cho'ng nafas ol, nafasni chiqar deb bir tekshirdi.
They also used another machine and asked me to breathe, to do deep breath, to take deep breath.
Anandan keyin yana besim xalta geldi, yana astan qavatdagi bir yerga akirdi, liftdan astaga tushganligini men his qildim, chunki men ko'rmadim.
And then they were taking me to a place, I think it was basement. Even though I couldn't see anything, but I could feel that I was in the lift was going down. So I am pretty sure it was a basement.
Bir qarang'i uyga akirgandan keyin u yerda shu pastda beshimdagi xaltani avatdi.
I was taken into a very dark room, and then they removed the black hood from my head.
Qulamdagi ko'zni, putumdagi ko'zni avatdi.
They removed the handcuff and the shackles from my ankles.
Bütün kiyimimni sevdib, yalang'och holatda qildi.
They removed all my clothes, put me completely naked.
Ondan keyin yana bir mashinaga to'stirib, mashu ko'ksamning ust tarafini menga chaplab, kenimdan bir qatim, oldimdan bir qatim bir mashinaga besib boshida tekshirdi, nurdimda siziq qolatda.
Then they placed some attached certain equipment on or above my breast, and then used another machine to check and examine me front and back.
Ondan keyin u yerdan chiqqandan keyin meniki bu boshim tarafga, o'ng shoulderga, sol shoulderga, ondan keyin yurakning oldiga, ikki o'ng putumga, sol putumga bundaq bir qog'ozda uqmayma bir suyuqlikni surkidi.
After they finished that, then they put liquid on my forehead, my both shoulders, and qayoqingiz dedingiz? Oldidagi there.
Yurakning ost taraf.
Yeah, just below my heart.
Ondan keyin o'ng putum, sol putum.
My both legs.
Men ko'mayma bir suyuqni surkidi, shuning bilan bir yalang'och bir bundaq aynaklik bir mashinaning ichiga kirgizdi.
They then put me into a glass machine, a glass machine. Yeah.
O glass machine ingliz so'zlaydigan 1 2 3 4 5 6 deb 10 gacha from 1 to 10 gacha bir qatam meni cho'glatdi butun holatda mashina ichida.
And they made me circle in that machine, inside that machine, by shouting the number 1 2 3 4 to 10.
Uning ichiga kirganda quloqimdan itilib qoldi ekan, hechimni anglayolmaydi ekanman, glass itilgandan keyin.
After the glass door was closed, after I was placed inside, I cannot hear anything. My hearing is like I lost my hearing.
Shuningdan keyin u yerdan cho'glab bo'lgandan keyin u yerdan chiqdim, chiqqan vaqtda butun badanim mag'dursiz holatda bo'lib qoldi.
After I came out, I had no energy. I felt very exhausted.
Kiyimini aşağıda turmaning kiyimini kiygizib, yana bir boshqa uyga akirdi.
And then I was changed into the prison uniform, then taken to another room.
U vaqtda men bak qo'rqib ketib, üstüge chiqdim, aslida uqmayman, lekin chunki mashinani bek beshimni qaydirib o'tganlik uchun bak qo'rqib ketdim, balki meni ish azamni yoldiga o'xshaydi, meni o'ldiradigan o'xshaydi deb qo'rqib ketdim.
I became terrified after I was placed in that machine. I thought they may taking my internal organs, and that I might die that day.
Excuse me 1 minute. We've all seen the statement, and we know that much of what follows could be a distressing account. The medical examination has been given, and it would be a matter for you and the witness to decide whether she needs to go through all that follows, or whether we can take it as read. And I have an eye on the clock and the timetable.
Sizinki
Biz-
bayanatınız bizniki qolumuzda var. Belki sizin bütün həmin nəslərini değişmi siz özünüz üçün biraz bilsin. Biz sizden şu özümüz bilişki tegişlik suallarını soruşumuz mümkün.
Okay.
Ms. Misterson, the tribunal has read your statement, and it seems that this is very distressing account for you. The tribunal may have few more questions. Thank you very much.
Biyədikilər həmisi sizinki bayanatınızı okudu, əlbəttə intayın iğir bir siz üçün boğan bir vəziyyət. Şunun üçün hazır bizden dostlarımız Mişədikilər sizden sual soraydı.
Okay.
I wanted to revisit, and if it's difficult to speak about, she doesn't have to answer the question, but I want to revisit when she was brought to the camp with her children. In her testimony, she mentions that she was separated from them. So I want to know if she can explain whether there are other children there and what exactly that facility was like, because she also says that she was able to see them through a glass window.
Bu xanım belki biraz xata düşünüp qağa oxşaydı. Mən yəni nimil bolmusu sualını sizə nimi dəb sorğan bolsa şu boyunca düşündürək bu dəbdə kampda baldırımını ayırıb etdi dəbdə, lakin kim balamını köydüm dəbdə, o ballarını faqatlam əynəkdən görəldim dəbdə, şunu bir düşündürüb birələm istəyir.
This is about I was in the detention camp 3 times. From 2015 March 13 until 2015 7 ayının 27 günügəcə bir qatım. 7 ayının neçəsi qandaqdaydı?
Yeah, I was in the camp 3 times, and the very first time it was from the 13th of March 2015 till July 2015.
This is first time, because this time they give me release outside because of my triplet have very sick. And then they give me outside, but I am in blacklist. I don't have phone, passport, any ID, and then I cannot contact with anybody. Must be have one Chinese police follow me 24 hours. That time when I go out from prison, this first time I go to directly children's hospital in my city. That time I see my triplet, 2 baby is emergency, and another baby is one glass room. They didn't give me see. The doctor says the baby die. They give me die body. This is, and then until 2017, March 17. This time I was in my hometown. I don't go anywhere. Stay in my home. I was in blacklist. And then I have every day at my home have 2 Chinese police with me 24 hours because they want me release, and anytime the police want to ask me any questions, they contact with me to return back again prison. Because my 2 children so sick, so they give me outside prison. They stay like this. So 2017 and second time months 4 day 17, they take me to again detention camp. This time I don't know again these 2 children with my parents or with who. This is second time. And then the 2017 8 ayınınki ahırda 8 ayının ahırına dep beriğen.
Yeah, in 2017 the end of August.
Ola şu vaqtda ular meni liqib çünki 2017'de 4-nji ay tutqan vaqtda tokka elektrik bek çatqanlyk üçün andan keyin maňa 2 dal dori berip mına sorak qildi. Şu dorining täsirimi uqmayma yoki turmydaki yemekler naçar sebäbidinmi men aylanyp qalgan iliq şunu yo'qotgan. Şununga meni Saranglar doktorxanasiga apyp qo'ygan ekan.
Yeah. Because I was severely tortured, and I also forced to take unknown medicine. I don't know whether it's because of the terrible condition of the camp, torture, and a combine of all. I became fainted and developed seizure. That is when I was transferred to the mental hospital.
Anından keyin mening dadam men chunki mental hospitaldan nurg'un odamlarni sarang bo'lib qoldi deb mental hospitalga olib borgandan keyin u yerda mentally sog' odamlarmi sarang dori berib sarang qilib keyin yo'q qilib yetadi ekan. Dadam qizim kichik bo'lgandan keyin ichi a'zoyini ilib buni o'ldirib etib yo'q qilyapmisin deb men o'zim egi qizim qanday ish bo'lsa deb qo'l qo'yib o'zi uyga davolashni iltimos qilib uyga aketgan ekan.
Okay. The condition in the mental hospital is absolutely horrific, and there are people who are actually the mental health problem. But for those who doesn't have the mental health problem, can develop real mental health there. And also, my father was terrified that because I am a young woman, and they might take my organs for organ harvesting. So he went to the hospital, requested to take me home and to look after.
Okay, during your time in the camp, what was the age range of the women that you were with? What was the youngest and what was the oldest that you remember?
Youngest is 17-year, old one is 62 year. Younger is 17-year-old, old one is 62 years. 62-year-old woman only one, and another down is more than 50-year-olds is about more 10 or 13 like this, and then another one all is 17 year until 30 years is a woman more than young more.
And my last question, at any time during your detention, were you ever given a bracelet to wear, an orange bracelet?
Мүші сіз ішчіде уақытыңызда, 3 yıllık ettim işçilik vaxtıda sizin kolunuzga 100 rənglik, orange rənglik müştaq neyme taqışыңızga mecburludu mu?
Yo'q, chunki bizni har qatam shu turmaga akirishdan burun qon tekshiraydi, pichog'i soldi, sudik tekshiraydi. Andan keyin bir narsani surkab, sovuq bir narsani surkab uni tekshiraydi, andan keyin sudik tekshiraydi, ayollarning mudaqalqi jinsiy a'zoning ichiga bir narsa silib, saymon silib tekshiraydi. Shu natijaga qarab, soqchilar shu hammamizning natijasiga qarab, andan keyin ma masalan mikroga tursin, ma lagerga manchinji uyga munosib, ma palani manchinji uyga munosib deb ash doktor tekshirishimiz qarab ayirib so'laydi ekan.
Each time when we were taken to the detention, before distributing us to different category of cells, we had to go through a very detailed health check. For example, blood test and ultrasound, and for women also have to go through the very intimate. They insert something inside to do some checks as well, and then we were distributed to different cells.
You mentioned in your statement that you received a phone call from your brother in China, telling you that you should denounce your account and what you said in the interviews to the media about your experience in detention centers and the labor camps. Are you aware of aware that if the other members of the Uyghur community outside the China have received, have been threatened in the same or other ways by the government of China.
Bayanatыңызда siz eningizningki yoki akangizning birada nima sizga telefon qilib sizningki mushu butun deganlaringizni yolg'on, siz asli undaq bo'lmagan, men yolg'on dedim degan shundaq bir besimlarni qilibdi. Siz o'zingizdan boshqa sizga o'xshash mushtaq boshqa Uyg'urlarmi shundaq bir taktiklarni qo'llanganligini bilamsiz?
Ha, bilmem. Ben bilen şu Amerika'da 4 Uygur var, ben bilmem. Ulanın şu atansı hazırının üzerinde şu Amerika turuşluk China Embassy'ye berişini, şular bilen görüşüp bayanat berişini, etrafında kanak Uygurlarının nemiz kıvatkalıqını şunu deyişini, şunu dese, kempedeki ağaçlarınınki akıllarının koyup verildiğini, aşına besim düşüye geldiğini ulamı mağın degen. Ben şular bilen görüşüp kalan, ama ulanın bir yerde ismini eğer dep beranlasa, men ulanın ruhsatsız dep beremem. Men ulan bir şeyde Amerika'da ba, öz eğer bula alaqlaşmakçı bolsa, men alaqış numarını dep ersem buldu.
Yes, there are at least 4 people who are living in Washington here that I met, also experienced the similar threat. I cannot reveal their name because I never asked their permission. But if you need their details, I certainly can contact them, and then if they allow me, I can provide you their details.
Thank you.
One question only. You speak in your statement, and we do not need the detail, of 9 women from a cell of 68 people dying in 3 months. Were these deaths occurring in the cell because of maltreatment or because of disease? Was there any indication they were deaths of people who could be used for organ harvesting?
As yani qaytalaydig'inim, sizning bayonotingizda asoslıq uçurlar bizning qo'limizda bor. Shuning uchun siz yani inchik o yezilgan narsalarni qaytadan bizga tushuntirishingizningki hojat yo'q. Ama shu 3 oyning ichida 9 kishining o'lib ketganligini deb o'tibsiz. Endi sizningki o'zingizning shu ko'rganligingizdan qaraganda bularning o'limiga nima sabab bo'lgan? Balki tamoq ochliqdan bo'ldimi yo boshqa sabablardan bo'ldimi? Mushu to'g'riliq azroq bizga ma'lumot bersangiz, yana bularni o'ldirib o'tishdagi sabab bularningki ishki a'zosini qo'llanish uchun nima qildim? Qanchalik shu o'zingizning bilginingiz bo'yicha deb bersangiz bo'ldi.
Ularning asliki 62 yaşlıq Gülnisa xanım, belki o mening ko'nglimda salomatlik jihatdan bo'ldi, chunki uning puti bilan qo'li bek ishib ketgan, badnigimda qizil bir narsa chiqib ketgan, uni davolashga ololmagan. Qolganlari shu 23 yoshdan 26 yoshgacha bo'lganlar, ular ikki ayolninki 2 oydan ortiq bo'lgan, period to'xtamay qon kelayotgan.
Men tercim qilayim. There was a lady who was 62 years old, and I believe it because of the health condition deteriorated, because she had swollen feet and hands, also developed red rashes all over her body, and she died from that. And there are another 2.
Honestly, please, can you say, I don't want to trouble her with the detail of the deaths. Just answer to the question, were any of them leaving the cell in condition or in circumstances where she thought they might be used for organ harvesting?
Mening faqat oddilam bir savolim. Bularninki shu qolganlarninki o'lib ketishiga shu Xitoyning ishki a'zosini ishlatish sabab bo'lganligi bo'ldimi deydi, sabab bo'ldimi?
Olma sebep oldu deymen çünkü ben onu %100 kılamayım, ona kılalık mende ispat yok. Çünkü biz tükep ketkenler yaşla, ulan emsiyatını tükep kettin, nefes toxta qaldı, putunu söylep esketdi, onu qanaqlıdı oxumayman. Ana lekin şu arlıqda şu 3 ay jarayanda ben 14-dan 18 bo'lgan yosh qizlar chiqib ketadi. Ularni ne başqa götüyatdimi yo uy kesiyatdimi, nemish bo'ldi, undan xabarim yo'q. Qo'yapmadimi yo undan xabarim yo'q.
I have always suspected the organ harvesting because these young women between age of 23 to 26, they stopped breathing and then they were dragged by their feet and taken away. Also, during my time in this camp for 3 months, there were women between age 14 to 18 taken away from the cell and never returned. So I suspect what happened to them, but obviously it's impossible for me to know exactly what happened.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tersan, for making yourself available to the tribunal and giving evidence. Your evidence is now concluded.
Sizge köp rahmet. Bugün vaqt çıqırıp, şu sotqa qatnışıp, meşede bizge guvalıq bəgərliginiz üçün sizge rahmet etimiz. Bugünkü sizin aldığanı guvalıq meşede ayarlaşdı. Rahmet sizge.
Köp rahmet buldu.
Mr. Sabi, we are running 25 minutes late. Would you like us to abbreviate the next break?
Yes, sir, if it's possible.
Shall we
The
come
break
back at
should end
1:45?
22.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have 15 minutes and no more.